Welcome back. All right, so the NHL has decided, apparently, on at least they're close to deciding on who's going to get that contract for the other half of the broadcasting rights in the states, the B package as it is, and apparently NBC's made it easier by saying we're out. So NBC, who Peacock acquired the WWE network, and so they've had this awkward WWE promotion stuff during NHL games. That ends at the end of this season. So if people are going, man, I'm really glad there's no cross promotion between wrestling and hockey after this year. Here's where it could get interesting. Here's where things could get really, really interesting. So we've heard about Fox Sports potentially getting it. Well, Fox Sports, you have a WWE connection there because SmackDown is carried on Fox. But the other part that's interesting is Turner Broadcasting apparently wants in on the NHL, and they have not pulled out. And word has it, depending on where you're reading it right now, it looks like, and Bob McKenzie's reporting that the likelihood is that Turner gets the other part of the broadcasting deal in the U.S., which would mean the NHL on TBS or TNT. Now, if it ends up on TNT, the wrestling wars become a thing. So this is where it gets. I find it funny, anyways, that if it ends up on TNT, then you'd have AEW cross promotion, and yeah, so that they'd kind of be voting between. All right, so Fox Sports, we might get a WWE cross promotion. We have to do if we go to TNT, we might end up having to do an AEW cross promotion. It's weird, but it's a small world and all that, and it just sounds like NBC got priced out. That NBC said no. That's too rich for our blood. We're not doing it. So it is too bad. There are people, and I said this as well in the last news video. There are people who work at NBC that I like. I know there are people that we can all agree, we don't want to see them necessarily unemployed, but if they decided to add fresh new voices when they get the new contract, that might be okay too. The one thing again with Turner can sometimes be really bombastic and over the top. So, do we get the glow puck back if it goes to Fox? Do we get some new kind of glow puck? Maybe a fiery flaming puck if we go over to Turner. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I guarantee you that they'll promote the heck out of it. TBS and TNT will promote the heck out of it. And yeah, so that's where it is right now. We'll see what ends up happening, but the NHL clearly is going to be making a lot of money next year on their American deal in comparison with what they've made over the last 10 years. They're definitely going to get an increase, and they're going to get more eyeballs on the product next year with ESPN and potentially Turner carrying it. So we'll see how things turn out. So injury news, a lot of injury news, a lot. If you're a St. Louis fan, if you don't know all this, I apologize up front, but you probably already do because it's kind of expected St. Louis is going to deal with injuries. But Vince Dunn is out, upper body injury. Pareko's out, and Krug is considered a game time decision tonight. So that could potentially be, 3 of the top 4? That hurts, but it gives guys like Wallman a chance to step up. That's always the way I kind of prefer to see it is, all right, well, gives you an idea of how the young guys are going to step up. How are the depth guys going to step up? So we'll see how things go for St. Louis. Again, it's got to be kind of rough for them right now as they're trying to solidify fourth spot, and now you get, major injuries on that blue line, right? So we'll see how they do tonight against Colorado, who are also still dealing with injuries themselves. Vancouver, Demko, hurt in the morning skate. So, hurt in the morning skate. Holtby starts. The good news is, over his last, I think it's 12 starts against Ottawa, he's 11-0-1. So, Holtby, pretty good record against Ottawa. And so we'll see how things go tonight for Vancouver and whether or not Demko's good to go in the next game. Silovs will be the backup for the Canucks tonight. So that's where we're at on that one. More injury news. Nick Ehlers out for the rest of the regular season for Winnipeg. They assure us that they're hoping to have him back for the start of the playoffs. And it's an upper body injury, and the most likely culprit from their last game would have been a collision with Jake Muzzin, where it appeared to be a shoulder, and he headed down the tunnel. He did, I believe he finished out the game. But, with injuries, sometimes it's easier while you're playing, and then after you're done, That's when the real pain sets in and you realize, oh, this is worse than I thought it was. So Ehlers being done for the season. I don't know if it's precautionary or what it is, but it's the timing of it's bad because coming off of back-to-back losses, now they've got Edmonton, and it's possible that Winnipeg comes out of all this with no better than third place, which is fine, but it still means that you're starting on the road for the playoffs, and we'll see how things go in the North there as the North deals with injury issues. Jacob McDonald. He's week to week for the Colorado Avalanche. He was hurt while he was training during the team's shutdown. So during that week that they were off, he was training and he got hurt. And that does happen. And speaking of which, Grubauer, who was taken off the protocol list, he is still not good to go, clearly. He'd be playing tonight if he was. So Johansson makes the start tonight. My guess is they just want to make sure he's 100% before they put Grubauer back in net. You don't want to end up with him getting hurt because seeing Demko get hurt, there's going to be questions about did he get rushed back? Was he really not ready? So, yeah, you want to make sure that doesn't happen. So, it's the number 3 goaltender for Colorado tonight, and you're potentially missing 3 of your top 4 defensemen for St. Louis. We'll see how that affects the game, right? We'll see if it's a really high-scoring game. If it ends up being a really defensive game, we'll see. News from today on retirement. The jersey I'm wearing is my Andrew Shaw Chicago Blackhawks jersey. He announced his retirement this morning. He's basically it's concussion related. We could see this coming, and it's too bad. But on the other side, at least he's going out on his own terms. 29 years of age, young, very young to be retiring. So all the best wishes to him. There will be a career video at some point on Andrew Shaw because Andrew Shaw is an interesting case where the potential was there, and at times he looked like he was going to be a pretty darn good two-way forward. Top 6 potential there as well. And then, yeah, he gets sidelined with concussions. And it happens in this league. David Backes, on other potential retirement news anyways, says he's leaning towards retirement at the end of this season. Which makes a lot of sense. He's not the player he was. When he played in St. Louis, he was one of my favorite players in the league. Loved Backes. And when he signed in Boston, there were immediately some people scratching their heads on that one. Not as much as Bolesky, mind you. The Bolesky one at the time just seemed odd because he had just come off of what was clearly a career year, and yeah, he signs there. But the Backes one really kind of stings him, and now he's in Anaheim and he's winding it down. He's saying, yeah, I'll probably retire at the end of this season. He does strike me as the type that if he wants, he could end up working his way up to being a head coach in the NHL. It would suit him. I look at guys like Brenda Moore, Tocchet, who made pretty good coaches in the NHL. Brenda Moore's been great. Backes, I'm not going to put in Brenda Moore's category necessarily, but I could see him being a coach in the NHL. Ottawa, goaltending. The carousel continues. Who's up tonight? Looks like it's going to be Hogberg. Forsberg and Murray are both still listed as no's, and Murray apparently is going to be out longer than Hogberg or Forsberg. Not that they're telling us how long either one's going to be out, but apparently Forsberg's closer to a return than Murray. So, yeah, I have no idea how that's all going to turn out for Ottawa. And in the offseason, I don't know that there's enough to really go on to say, okay, so Matt Murray gets a mulligan on this year, or does he not? Like, there's a lot of questions to be answered by Ottawa, because starting next season, the expectation is going to be that they take that next step. They start to climb their way towards potential playoffs, right? And goaltending obviously is going to play a major role in that. So what they decide to do with their goaltending is going to be interesting, because again, they've had to deal with goaltenders being injured throughout most of the season. Noah Hanifin. So this came out this morning as well for the Calgary Flames. He's done for the season. That is a major blow for Calgary. Now, I know he's not playing as well over the last, I'll say, month as he was early in the year, but still, that's a top 4 defenseman who's out. It's going to test their depth a little bit, and this is a team that is already. It's very unlikely they make the playoffs, right? It's very unlikely that they end up catching Montreal, but losing Hanifin to me means it's even less likely that they catch Montreal. But again, we'll see how things turn out for them. Certainly injuries haven't necessarily sunk other teams. And I do think sometimes we make too much out of one player getting hurt. It's when it's a bunch of players that get hurt. Or a certain player getting hurt can make a big difference too. So on the Rangers, Tampa Bay front. So there's a reason, and Fox versus Hedman. So there's been a lot of talk about the Norris Trophy, and Adam Fox has had an amazing run with the New York Rangers. The one question I have is whether or not there's enough writers, because the writers vote on that. If there's enough writers who are going to say, all right, so Hedman, best defenseman in the league, but this year we're going to give Fox the Norris Trophy. And it's along the same lines as during the Nick Lidstrom era, where Lidstrom, and I'm not going to say Lidstrom was not a fantastic defenseman, ever. But there were seasons where you could have made an argument for another defenseman maybe winning over him. And partly based on reputation and also based on the fact he was excellent, Lidstrom would end up winning. I do wonder if we're into a Hedman era where if Hedman has a really good year and he stays healthy, he is the most likely winner of the Norris, and if we're going to see guys get overlooked. So we'll see. I mean, Fox, with the scoring pace he's been on, and the fact the Rangers have been red hot during that as well, it's possible. It's possible that we see Adam Fox holding up the Norris Trophy. We'll see. But it's going to be one of the more fascinating matchups is between them. And then, of course, you have Cale Makar, who could potentially just come in and snag one as well because he is seen as like the next guy. So defensemen, there's always going to be a huge difference of opinion on defensemen and who the best really are and what makes a great defenseman. And it's a whole argument we've had on this channel plenty of times. We'll probably have it again soon. Let me know your thoughts regarding any of these topics in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.